too waterlogged. Let it drain.
God damn it! Hey, how much time?
45 to an hour.
What's this gonna cost us, Brain?
A lot. Decades.
How long for the engines, Case?
A minute or two.
Case, blow the cabin oxygen through the main thrusters. We're gonna spark it. Engines up!
Christopher Nolan's Interstellar is a film of colossal proportions, a near-century spanning cosmic journey that is accompanied by overwhelming emotions, a blaring score, and incredible performances. Said to have been influenced by key touchstones of science fiction, such as Metropolis, 2001: A Space Odyssey, alongside art house works like Andrei Tarkovsky's The Mirror, Interstellar is seen by many as Nolan's magnum opus. Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film and Comics Explained, and by frequent request, today we'll be exploring Interstellar. Interstellar's plot hits upon a ton of thematic material, including the fear of the unknown, the ravages of relativity, familial bonds, and pushing on through the impossible to achieve greatness. In a near future ravaged by blight and devastating dust storms, we follow NASA pilot turned farmer Joseph Cooper as he attempts to raise his two children, Murph and Tom, with his father-in-law Donald.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
With the decimation of many types of crops and the end of okra within the year, the blight is essentially feeding on the rich nitrogen sources found on Earth, subsequently reducing the oxygen on the planet. On their way to school, Cooper, Murphy and his son Tom find a rogue drone flying above them and follow it in the hopes of salvaging its solar parts. Cooper speculates that it must have been flying low due to interference from a signal, and this theory is compounded with news that tractors and equipment belonging to their neighbours have also driven themselves to the edge of Cooper's home. Upon further investigation, they head to Murphy's room, where she explains she's trying to communicate with the bookshelf using Morse code, but Cooper insists that this isn't possible.
I just don't think your bookshelf's trying to talk to you.
As the weather worsens, a severe blight sends dust into Murphy's room, which shows a distinct pattern of lines, causing Cooper to second-guess his initial assumptions. After spending the night in the room, he realizes it's not magnetism, but gravity at play here. Realizing this is a binary code, he determines their coordinates, leading to his and Murphy's discovery of a secret research facility. Here, Cooper meets with Professor Brand, his daughter Dr. Brand, and astronauts Doyle and Romilly, all of whom are working on a top-secret mission to find a new habitable planet for humanity.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it.
It's explained that there have been many anomalies like the one Cooper had encountered in his home, but none as significant as the wormhole found near Saturn, which had been placed there by unknown entities 48 years prior. This led NASA to commence work on the Lazarus mission, which sent 12 astronauts to 12 separate worlds located through the wormhole, candidates for a potential new colony. If the right conditions for habitation were discovered, the astronauts were instructed to turn on a beacon, informing NASA to potentially send their follow-up Endurance mission to that location. NASA's plan is essentially twofold. Plan A is to finish off the centrifuge space station that John had been working on, in the hopes of developing a new gravitational-based propulsion system to allow for a mass exodus off the planet. And Plan B is essentially to send the Endurance to one of these potentially habitable planets, along with 5,000 fertilized eggs and equipment to incubate their growth and ensure the survival of the species.
What about the people here? You give up on them? My kids?
That's why Plan A is a lot more fun.
While nobody can really get their head around how Cooper found the compound, Professor Brand identifies him as one of the best pilots left on Earth, making him essential for the next mission, traveling to each of the 3 planets along with Amelia Brand, Romilly, and Doyle. Wasting no time, the team are launched into space joined by 2 robots, the quick-talking Tars.
Everybody good? Plenty of slaves for my robot colony?
And the cooler-headed Case.
Hello, Case.
Hello, Tars.
Heading into the wormhole, they emerge in the new galaxy, presenting 3 possible planets discovered by Lazarus astronauts Miller, Edmund, and Mann. Each seems relatively promising, but they decide on Miller's first after being provided the promise of water and distant mountains. The catch? Miller's planet is near to the black hole Gargantua, resulting in every hour spent on the planet's surface, equating to 7 years passing on Earth. Cooper, Brand, Doyle and Tars head down to the surface, discovering a water-covered giant, but Miller is nowhere to be seen, only the wreckage of their ship, destroyed by colossal waves that they thought were mountains. Losing Doyle to the waves, they make it back to the ship to find that Romilly had been waiting for them for an excruciating 23 years. Unfortunately, when Cooper explores messages sent to him from Earth, he literally witnesses his children growing up before his very eyes, believing that he'd abandoned them. Now with only enough fuel to go to one other planet, the trio debate whether to head to Edmund or Mann next. Dr. Mann, who led the expedition, has been consistently sending a positive ping, and while Edmund's planet had more favourable data, it had stopped transmitting its beacon 3 years prior. Brand makes a strong case for Edmund, but Cooper insists that a romance with Edmund was clouding her judgment, and ultimately makes the call to head for Mann.
Your fuel calculations are based on a return journey.
You might have to decide between seeing your children again and the future of the human race.
Touching down on a frozen, rocky wasteland, they pull Mann out of cryosleep, and he explains why his planet is perfect to serve as humanity's new home. The only problem is, he's lying, having been broken under the pressure of isolation.
Don't judge me, Cooper. You were never tested like I was. Human habit.
To make matters worse, on his deathbed, Dr. Brand Sr. confesses to Murphy that he'd lied to everyone for the sake of the species as a whole. He actually didn't believe in Plan A and their ability to build a centrifuge space station. In fact, it was all essentially a ruse to get humanity to greenlight Plan B and the colonization of a new planet with fertilized eggs. After nearly killing Cooper, Mann steals a ship and flies up to the space station as Romilly dies in an explosion triggered by Mann's decommissioned robot.
He'd ruin us?
He is ruining us.
Cooper and Brand make chase, but Mann's attempt to dock blows the airlock and shoots his corpse into space. Luckily, the pair manage to clamber back into the ship with Cooper's amazing piloting, but with insufficient fuel to reach Edmund's planet, they use a slingshot maneuver around Gargantua, the time dilation of which adds another 51 years to their trip. In the process, Cooper and Tars jettison themselves to shed weight and propel the Endurance using Newton's third law, ensuring that Bran reaches Edmund's planet. Now sucked into a black hole, Cooper is then flung into a colourful tesseract, a three-dimensional representation of a five-dimensional reality created by our descendants in the future, where he finds himself on the other side of Murph's bookshelf. Slamming books off shelves and organising dust to communicate with his daughter, Cooper literally becomes the ghost from the film's opening.
Go back to bed, babe.
I thought you were the ghost.
No such thing as ghosts, babe.
Communicating with Tars, who's also pulled into the Tesseract, the pair transcode raw quantum data from Gargantua and send it to Mirth, who uses it to solve the gravity equation. The Tesseract then closes in on Cooper, and he wakes up in Cooper Station, named after his daughter. After reuniting with Tars, Cooper finally meets with a century-old Mirth on her deathbed, where she urges him to find Brand and establish humanity's new colony on Edmund's planet, which he does without hesitation. Interstellar is a unique film in that it makes humanity feel unbelievably small and insignificant in the face of endless time and space, while paradoxically making humanity feel totally central to its own preservation. Pair this with Dr. Brand's speech about love.
Love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
The fact that humans created both the wormhole which the team travel through and the tesseract which Cooper finds himself in within the black hole, we find another paradox about how humanity's understanding from the world through science limits us taking account of the factors we don't fully understand. After all, how did humans create these things in the future if they weren't discovered and understood until many, many years afterwards? Not only this, but Cooper could have only come across the coordinates for the NASA facility after his future self became the ghost in Murph's room, leaving us questioning how he ever made it there, and how is he able to exist in multiple places at once. While this is all explained by future humans cracking the code of space-time, allowing us to traverse time as a predetermined static dimension, that doesn't remove the paradoxical nature of it all.
They're not beings. They're us.
Back in the 1970s, philosopher Nelson Goodman proposed the concept of irrealism, which suggested that different schools of thought produce different interpretations of the world around us, reconciled in Goodman's mind as world versions. This encapsulates a form of pluralism, which attests that no singular model is complete enough to truly explain what is happening, resulting in the need for multiple models to provide any meaningful understanding of the world. With this irrealist pluralism in mind, we establish a form of reality which cannot be understood by one, but only by many. This theme is further seen in the philosophies of Interstellar's Professor Brand, who claims that for humanity to survive, they must think as a species, not as individuals, aligning with Friedrich Nietzsche's notion of Übermensch, posited by the character Zarathustra in Nietzsche's 1883 book Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The Übermensch is a concept involving humans shedding their traditional values in favour of being fully grounded in human ideals. This imbues an Übermensch with the trait of this worldliness, which establishes their mission to be for humanity and their survival, instead of for alternative higher powers worshipped in classical religions. This is notable in Professor Brand, who sets the course of the film in motion, not to save a handful of individuals, but to save humanity as a whole, functioning in the same way as our descendants, who use their knowledge and influence for the betterment of our species.
Recursive, it's nonsensical. I'm saying that you've been trying to finish it with one arm, no, with both arms tied behind your back.
While this idea understandably rubs up against many contemporary ideologies, especially considering how the notion of Übermensch was manipulated by others after Nietzsche's death to accommodate a horrific and narrow worldview, Interstellar uses it as a rally cry, not as a means of division, but as a unifying principle. As Cooper darts back into space, believing in a mission beyond himself once again, it's clear that Interstellar presents us with a call to action. Become the Übermensch, like Cooper, both Brands, Romilly, Doyle, Murphy, and our technologically advanced descendants. Become the one who will see beyond your own inconveniences, difficulties, and dreams, to leave markers that others can follow in the interest of genuine prosperity.
Mankind was born on Earth. It was never meant to die here.